Hello, I'm John Seigenthaler, and welcome to One-on-One, a conversation with a distinguished citizen of our city about the important issues of our day. Our guest today is Dr. Jesse Register, the Director of Metro Nashville Public Schools. Dr. Register, welcome to One-on-One.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you here to talk about what I think most people in our community think of now, something close to a crisis situation in public education. And I just have to ask you to begin with, why did you come here? I mean, you were in the Annenberg School for Reform of Education at Brown. You had a great job in Chattanooga, or maybe it's fair to say beloved, revered director of schools in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, that merged system. You know the trouble we have here. You know the test score crisis exists. Funding education is tough. School board has been at odds among members itself. The mayor is saying, should I take it over? Should I? Well, you know the problems better than I do, and the people know them. Why did you come here?
It's such important work. This work of making urban public schools successful, and the children who are served by in the metropolitan school systems across this country is so important to the future of our country. And I feel like I had a measure of success in Chattanooga. I was there for 10 years as superintendent, and quite honestly, a couple of years out, I really missed the work. I feel like this is my calling. It's what I've been called to do, and I feel like I can be effective with it. I've known Nashville. I've been in Tennessee since 1996, so I've been in and out. Of course, you can't be a part of Tennessee and not be connected very closely to Nashville. So I think it's the right time and the right place for me to hopefully make a very positive contribution.
But the challenge you knew.
Absolutely.
And you knew that there were going to be these problems with No Child Left Behind, the test score issue, and you knew about the August deadline. I don't know that it's a deadline, but as early as August, your system may be taken over by the state. I mean, you may be fired by the state of Tennessee. I don't think that's possible to happen,
I hope not.
But any member of the school board might be dismissed. As I read the representations of the law, we're right between a rock and a hard place.
Well, and I think it's a mistake to really focus on just this summer's test scores, because we didn't get in this circumstance in a matter of 6 months or even a year or two, and it's going to take some time to work through this. I think what's really important now is that we focus on what's really important, and that's looking at the performance of our young people and developing a plan that will improve the performance of our young people here. I really feel like I know what to do. The challenges are very similar to what we ran into in Chattanooga when the city and county school systems merged there. There were similar problems of performance there, and we had some very successful strategies there, and I think I learned a lot there. I think I learned how to do my job better that last 10 years in Chattanooga. So hopefully we can focus on the right things. I'm not the decision maker about whether the governance structure changes or not, and other people will decide that. What I want to do is get things started in the right direction, and so hopefully people in the community and those people who do make good decisions will see that once we get started on the right course, we need to continue that course.
It sounds to me as if you're saying we didn't get into this problem in 6 months and can't get out of it in 6 months. Sounds to me as if you think we're into restructuring too in August.
That remains to be seen. I think what I know about standardized test scores is that standardized test scores don't change immediately, don't change overnight.
No magic wand.
No magic wands, no silver bullets. We might see incremental growth. We might get just above safe harbor line, or we might not quite make it. I think that's really not what's important. I have a friend coming to town in a couple of weeks who has been a colleague. William Sanders, Dr. Bill Sanders is coming, who's the father of value-added data, and I really want to use his expertise. I had a nice long conversation with him on the phone a couple of days ago. I really want to use his expertise to help us understand the test data better, understand data better in our school system, and hopefully for our community, so that we get a good picture of what we can expect out of student performance over the next couple of years.
Help our audience understand added value.
Value added is a very significant other dimension to test scores. A test score, a performance test, is one point in time. What's really important for us to do is to look at students where they are and whether they make improvement or not, and whether teachers' performance improves over time. So value added is really a measure of growth, and I think that's an extra dimension that we haven't used that very well here in Nashville, in Metro Nashville Public Schools in the last few years, and I want to take advantage of that. There's a predictive element that we can use to predict how our students are going to do at young ages going into high schools. I want to know in the 5th and 6th grade when our young children are predicted not to be successful in Algebra 1 or in English or in those subjects, so that we can start remediation before it becomes remediation, so that we can work towards seeing that those students eliminate those deficiencies and become successful in high school. So a lot of work to do around learning how to use data much more effectively than what we do now.
You know, as I look at this approaching, maybe it's not a deadline, but it's certainly a borderline.
Right.
As we approach this, it occurs to me that if the state comes in effect, there shouldn't be any surprises. Connie Smith, Assistant Commissioner of Education, is in charge of evaluation. And how far ahead? Are you already working with the state and looking to the possibility of a takeover? Well,
we're not really looking toward the possibility of a state takeover. What we're doing is developing a partnership with the state. We have ongoing communications. I talk to Dr. Smith regularly. I talk to Dr. Tim Webb fairly regularly, who's the Commissioner of Education now, about making plans about school improvement. And that's really what our conversations are centered on. What can we do to improve the quality of education for our young people here in Metro Nashville? I have a great relationship with Mayor Dean. I enjoy working with him. I think we have an outstanding school board, very, very competent school board, and the way I choose to look at that is we've got some support and some resources here that we ought to take advantage of in this community. And so developing the partnerships of the state, of a governor who supports education, of a mayor here in Nashville who is very supportive from the first day he started office of public education, from a school board that's coming together with a very common vision. When you put all those things together, that ought to be an asset, not a liability.
Let me just ask you about it. The governor, of course, was the mayor of Nashville.
Yes.
He served as mayor of Nashville during a period when there was some tension among members of the school board. And that tension has continued through Mayor Purcell's administration, and now Mayor Dean has inherited that. I take it from recent news reports that some of that tension has dissipated. Is that your impression?
Yes, it is, absolutely. What I see the school board doing is rising to the occasion. You said it, we are in somewhat of a crisis here because of our low student achievement, and I see 9 members of the Board of Education really coming together and developing a common vision for what's good for all the young people in our school system. In fact, we're going through a process now where we're meeting in work sessions to develop that common vision.
Tell me, what can be done to improve test scores? What hasn't been tried?
I think we have to develop a new culture in the school system. It's quite frankly, it's a big bureaucracy. It's a big school system. It's been in place for a long time, even though there's some shakeup now. I think we have to learn how to be more collaborative. We're taking a very different look at what the role of the central office is. My job, is to support good instruction. Everyone in that central office needs to support quality instruction in schools. I want to be a support to teachers. I want to build instructional leadership teams in schools so that everything we do is focused on supporting good instruction and providing good instructional support systems for children. And I think one thing that's really been missing is a sense of collaboration. The challenges that we face today in public education in this country are very big. They're very complex. Our society's changed so much. We're serving children that we haven't been successful with in the past. It's not just an incremental change. We can't just do it the way we used to do it better. What we have to do is learn how to work in different ways and be successful.
Are there any different ways?
Absolutely. And I think really where we have to start is we have to understand that none of us are smart enough to solve those problems and have all the answers alone. What we have to learn how to do is work in a collaborative culture to really come up with solutions for those problems. I'll give you a good example. Our Spanish-speaking children in Metro Nashville don't perform very well. They're great kids and their parents are supportive. We're not doing something right, and one of the things we're not doing right is developing a good, close communication system with the parents of those children. So we've really got to connect with parents. We really have to look at what we're doing and to make sure that we are doing the right things, doing smart work, communicating with parents, communicating with our teachers and with our principals to do the right things.
When we talk about do things differently, in the back of my mind, the word charter schools flashes, and I know this very week, the legislature is dealing with charter schools. I mean, our charter schools have legislative restrictions on them. Every kid can't go to a charter. How do you feel about charter schools? Will charter schools rob public education, traditional public education, of funding?
Well, it's a change, but I think it's a change for us in public education. But I think that charter schools are a reality, and they do provide options for parents. What's important is that the charter schools are good charter schools. What's important is having good schools, whether they're charter schools or magnet schools or academies in our public school system. What's important is to have good schools and build quality. And I'll say that I know there's a great deal of interest in Nashville in developing a charter school movement. I think the legislation that's going through will increase the number of charter schools that we can have in the district. And I think there are board members and the mayor and others who are focused on the right thing. How do we discriminate? How do we choose those and recruit those charter schools that really provide high quality education? That's what's important. What we don't want to do is let in those programs that aren't high quality and that don't serve children well.
If you talk about charter schools with school teachers, particularly the leadership of the MNEA, the Metropolitan National Education Association, which is the union for teachers, you sense there is, look, we can't afford them. Every dollar you put in charter schools takes money away from what we've been doing all these years. How do you respond to that?
Well, there is a budget item. We're allotting about $10 million to charter schools this year, but it's a per pupil expenditure. It does put pressure on our budget, but there are other pressures on our budget too. There's never enough money. So I think what we have to understand is that that as that charter school movement grows, and it's going to, is back to what I was saying earlier, that we provide a system that ensures that those schools are good schools. And we've got schools in our school system that aren't performing the way they ought to. It'd be pretty hard for me to say, no, we don't want good schools in our community.
Talk about moving 200 people out of the central office. How's that going to benefit the school system as a whole?
It's going to benefit the school system as a whole because we're actually shifting the resources to the schools. I want our instructional expertise to be as close to the classroom as we can get it. I want to build quality instructional leadership teams in the schools. If you have a reading specialist, is that reading specialist more effective working out of a central office or working in a school, working next door to the teacher and to the teachers with whom he or she works? And so it's really a concept of basing instructional leadership in the schools. And I think that's a very important shift. I'm very excited about the shift that we're making now. It's in progress. Central office restructuring is in progress now. We'll run through the summer. But what I hope people are already beginning to see is that we are building the capacity of instructional leadership in the schools.
Let me ask you this. What's the role of a principal? More power?
The role of the principal is to be the instructional leader of a faculty for a school. And that's a change. Years ago, principals used to be building managers. We can hire other people to do that, and we can provide assistance for a principal to do that. I want a principal who is focused on improving instruction for children in the school. It's the very key position toward improving quality of instruction, in my opinion. I want a principal who knows how to work effectively with teachers, who holds teachers accountable, but who also values their opinions, who uses their opinions to improve instruction in schools. And I also want principals who learn how to collaborate with each other. High school principals are the world's worst. I think it's because of football on Friday nights. There's a competitive nature there, but they need to learn from each other. And too often our high school principals exist each in their own kingdoms, and they don't collaborate. They don't share best practices. They don't talk to each other about what works and what doesn't work. And we're already beginning to see a change there. Our principals are already beginning to come together and to have very deep, genuine conversations about what our young people need in this community and how we can better serve them.
I may be misreading this, but am I hearing you say that there are going to be staff changes, moving principals from one place to another, moving administrators and is there not a danger there of creating a morale problem?
There is the danger of not creating stability. Of destroying stability, but I think realistically, when you look at the fact that we have 137 schools in our school district, and that there's going to be change every year, rather than looking at the change that we're doing now as slash and burn, I look at it as refined surgery. We want to put the right people in the right schools to be school leaders. And we've made some changes this year, but not an excessive number, but we've made some changes, and we'll have to do that every year. As many schools as we have, there will be turnover every year. But the principalship is a key point of focus for me because I think they're so important in developing quality school by school. And I want to make sure that we have the very best person that we can have in every one of our schools to lead those schools. So we'll make changes when necessary.
We've been through a whole series of incidents in public schools across the nation in which there has been violence, sometimes disenchanted students come in with guns. How much of a concern of yours is the issue of security for students and faculty?
Safety is very important, and we really have to look at how we provide a safe and secure environment for our young people here in Metro Nashville and for the people who work in our districts, in our schools. And we're like many other urban school systems all across the country. We have issues of violence that arise from time to time. What we really have to do is look at creating a different culture in our high schools particularly, but also in our middle schools to some extent. We have to make sure that our young people realize that they are welcome, that it's a friendly place, that we have to establish relationships with adults and students and create a much more a positive environment in our schools for our young people. You can never hire enough police to make a building secure.
Yeah. Is there a program that looks for those? So often we read about these alienated kids.
Yes.
Isolated to themselves, maybe insulted by their peers. Are there programs that try to deal with reaching out to those who may be disenchanted or isolated?
Yes, there are. But let me tell you what's most important. Every teacher in every high school needs to understand that a part of his or her job is to form positive relationships with their students. We need to create a structure in our high schools. The big high schools are a concern because they can become very impersonal. And what we have to do, the programs that I'm familiar with and most support are those that really help teachers engage in personal relationship, meaningful personal relationships with students. Here's something that we have to realize in today's world. If we don't take the opportunity to do that in schools, that teacher might be the only positive adult relationship that some students have. And if that's not there, if we don't take advantage of that opportunity, if we don't have people in our high schools who want to be supportive role models for students, then they might not have any supportive adult role models. That's a real change. It's not the way you and I grew up.
No, it's not by any means.
And so we've got to take advantage of that. We've got to build that relationship. I think that's the best way to fight gangs.
By all means. Talk about two new high schools targeting dropouts. Yes. The academy and
right.
Well, you know the question.
Yeah, we're starting two new adult high schools that are and by adult we mean ages 17 to 21, students who are in danger of dropping out. We're actually going to recruit those who want to drop out of school, and we have a large number of students. The capacity for these two schools is going to be about 400 students a year. And we have a lot of students who, because of their family circumstances, just can't go to the traditional high school. This is a no frills, get your credits, get your diploma, a real diploma, not a GED, and we're going to provide flexibility so that you can do that. I met two students this year in my school visits that I'll use as examples. One was a 17-year-old young lady who had a baby, who could go to school for 4 hours a day, but she had to take care of her baby the rest of the time, and she wanted a diploma. She wasn't too far away from getting a diploma, but she just couldn't go to the traditional school and put in the long day, and she didn't need the extracurriculars. She had family responsibilities. This adult high school was tailor-made for her. There was another young man there at the same school that I'm at who was very angry because of the circumstances he had. A very bright young man, 17 again. He worked a full-time job as a mechanic to support him and his mother, two-person family, and he didn't understand issues of dress code and the rules that we impose on students in the traditional high schools. But he wanted a diploma, and we need to get him one, because when he gets a diploma from one of our schools, he's going to go to a trade school and learn how to be a very highly skilled mechanic. I could tell that about him. And so there are a lot of students across Metro Nashville whose circumstances are like that. For whatever reason, the traditional school doesn't fit. We need to do a better job of providing those alternatives. And this is a model that I'm bringing from Chattanooga. I'll tell you, we started the school there like this, and it's flexible. We tailor-make the program for each student. We map out a strategy for them to get their courses and to get their diploma as quickly as they can. No frills, no extracurriculars, no lunch. It's 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours. We have 3 blocks of time each day for students to get those. We're starting a great partnership. Opry Mills has offered us their training facility as a site for one of these schools. So we're going to have the academy at Opry Mills, and there will be job opportunities. So those students, some students can go to school in the morning and then have job opportunities in the afternoons or evenings working with the company there. So I think that's a great opportunity for students who have to do things like that.
What changes will the diploma project bring to the curriculum?
The curriculum for these adult high schools is exactly the same. We don't water down the curriculum. There's an academic core. They have to meet all the requirements for the real diploma in the state of Tennessee. As I said, what it is, it's no frills, and there's a great deal of flexibility in scheduling, but the requirements are the same.
You know, there is so much conversation and concern about funding of schools. I know, looking back over all the years I was in journalism in this community, every time there'd be an editorial saying more money for schools, I would hear talk show hosts attacking the idea, attacking the editorial, attacking school board for wanting more money. How do you deal with that negative attitude that so many people have about, I mean, if you're going to improve the schools, it takes funding.
Yes, it does. And I will tell you, this is the first time I've said this publicly, I would like to have more resources in our school district. However, the first thing we have to do is show the community and show the elected officials that fund us that we're using the resources that we have to our best advantage. That's what we're about this year.
And you think you can sell it?
Yes, I do.
And how?
Well, we need to state and show a good case for what else we need after we show that we're using the resources that we have for high yield strategies to our best advantage.
You know, you've been here a few months. You don't sound as if you regret it.
Not at all.
You walked into what some people would consider a trap, and you're smiling.
Yes, right.
Why?
Well, it's important work, as I said, and I feel like we're beginning to really pull some things together. I think there is a great opportunity for success here. I look forward to working here in the future.
We've been talking with Dr. Jesse Register, the Director of Metro Nashville Public Schools. I thank you all for watching, and I thank you, Jesse Register, for being with us on a one-on-one.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.